welcome. We're here for 5 steps to shed stress weight and skyrocket energy to lead with purpose, confidence, and purpose. So again, I'm Julie. I know many of you, and Theresa, I know, knows a few of you too as well. And so we just want to welcome you formally on this chilly Thursday night. So in today's masterclass, I'm just going to go through what we're going to talk about. We are going to show you our proven step-by-step system to smash the vicious cycle of burnout. I've been there. So you can start to show up with the energy and confidence to lead and live life with the impact that you desire. So looking at, a lot of the names that I see, I know a lot of you personally, and I know that you're all, women that are leading women and men in some capacity. So, I know that a lot of this is going to resonate with you and that we often share the same struggles too as well. And Theresa, you're going to just check on the participants too as well, right?
I am. I'm just let a few more people in.
Perfect.
Welcome. So
awesome.
Excited for you to be here. We're
Awesome.
thrilled to have you. Thank you for making the time to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. So I know a lot of you have followed Theresa and I, or one or the other. And obviously over the past few weeks, we've been talking a lot on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you may be following us. We've been talking a little bit about a master group that we are starting actually in about a week and a half or so. And we are going to talk a little bit about that group that we will be inviting you to towards the end of this program. And we're really excited about it. So we do want to, let you know that the invitation will be extended to you to join us. However, at the same time, you're going to find a lot of value in the next at least 40 minutes that we're going to be hopefully presenting to you as well. So you're going to find tons of value. And we are going to allow some time at the end of this because, especially when we deep dive into the nutrition side of things, obviously every woman is very, very different. And so you might actually have some specific questions related to nutrition that I may not cover fully in this presentation, but I'll try my best to do so at the end.
And chiming in a little bit, just for a second, if you do have a question and it comes up while you're hearing something, feel free to pop it in the chat as well so that you don't forget, and I will make sure that we go through the chat at the end as well for questions, just in case, because I feel like that can happen and it's happened to me. So maybe it'll happen to you.
Yes, pop them in if you think of something. We definitely don't want to miss anything. We want to make sure that you're getting as much value out of this as possible. So we're all on the same page. I wonder if this sounds like you. You are a busy, high-performing, ambitious woman with a thriving career, schedules, who doesn't have some sort of schedule, and family and friends, but you've put your physical and mental health on the back burner. You're exhausted, and quite frankly, you're tired and burned out, and you ask yourself, is this all really worth it? You feel like a hot mess some days. I don't know, maybe every second day for me some days. One minute you feel yourself and in charge and in control, and then the next day you're low energy and lethargic, and you feel like a hot mess and it's all falling apart and wondering if people see that happening around you. But you keep pushing through because you have an impeccable work ethic. You rely on one of my favorite things, coffee, sugar and processed convenience foods to keep you alert. And now you feel puffy, inflamed, and you feel like your body is working against you versus for you. So we definitely get where you're at. Both of us have been in high driving careers. Theresa has a business. She'll talk a little bit about herself. I actually work full-time in human resources. I also run 2 businesses on the side. So we have faced stress and exhaustion and ultimately burnout. So let's talk about who we are, because I know some of you may not know me particularly. I am Julie Pecarski, and I'm the registered holistic nutritionist that you might have seen talking on Instagram, but I have worked in human resources and operations in hotels, restaurants, and even not-for-profit and in recruiting and facilities management. And I will tell you, I tell the story that I've burned out multiple times in my life very unknowingly, because I just didn't realize it as an issue. And we know that burnout is on the rise with women as we speak now. We're all very, very well aware of it now. But at the time, I wasn't. And so what actually happened to me, Theresa and I have very similar stories in how we have felt in our situations. But for me, what brought me to getting help with a naturopath was that I was having issues with my cycle. And I was somebody who had what I call the perfect cycle. I'd never been on birth control. I tell women that and they're like, you've never been on birth control? Because it's pretty common, but I wasn't. And honestly, I just had an impeccable cycle. And then one day things just started to shift. I wasn't feeling myself. My energy was tanked. My cycle was erratic. And I just knew something was up. At that point, I had been studying nutrition, and I knew that was a pretty big red flag. And I walked into my doctor's office, my naturopath actually, and she tested my hormones. I was in my mid to late 30s and went and did the tests. I came back into the office and she basically said, you are tanking your body. And if you don't slow down, you're really, really going to pay for it. And your first sign is that your cycle's, going to hit the road, which it did for me. And what I thought were hormonal issues actually were stress issues. She basically said that I was really in high drive and I was utilizing, using up my hormones, basically. Cortisol is our stress hormone. We'll probably talk about it in this presentation. And when that gets really depleted, it starts to compensate and steal from other hormones, which explained my very erratic cycle. So went in for hormone issues and came out with stress issues, but they're all very, very much tied together. So Theresa's going to tell a little bit about her story. I had a lot of pride in trying to ask for help. It basically had to take a stranger to tell me to slow down. And since then, obviously, I've really, not saying I don't still high drive, but I kind of know the signs and I know when to slow down, and I know to realize that, the most important relationship I'll ever have is with myself and my body. So it's really, really important that I treat it as number one. So that's a little bit about my story. I'll probably embed this with a few more stories along the way, but I'll let Theresa tell a little bit about herself.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Julie, and welcome everyone who's joined us just a little bit later. And just before I dive in, there was a problem with the chat, but I think I fixed it and you can chat with everyone. So please feel free to drop the comments in there. That is what I do. I like to fix things. So a little bit about me. I'm a professional coach now, and I really specialize on helping women nourish themselves to the top, but it wasn't always that way. In fact, I was a general manager of a luxury boutique hotel, and that's what I did full time up until this January when I decided to jump into my business full time. And one of the things that really struck me about burnout, I burnt out 3 years into my role with the hotel at the time. And one of the things that really started to manifest for me was the fact that regardless of how much success I was creating on the outside, how much more revenue we drove, how many more awards we won and recognition we received, both me personally and for the property, the less I felt I was contributing. And literally this burnout, the exhaustion for me really manifested in this way of me really feeling incredibly anxious, having a really tough time making decisions, and questioning myself all the time on all the things. And literally I was telling myself that I have to keep working hard, I have to keep pushing, I have to keep striving. No one can see how I feel because it would make me weak. I may in fact lose my job if they see that I'm struggling. And I felt like a complete fraud, an imposter, despite being featured in magazines and having all the success as a hotelier. I was literally struggling to make it through my day. And it was like I was living this like false life. And for me, that was so hard, because when you you sort of see what you've created, but you're like, no, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. We have to go and we have to do more. And it was kind of, crazy at the time. And then the physical symptoms for me really sort of pushed me over the edge. I shared this with Julie. I put on about 20 pounds in 2 months, even though I was running 3 times a week and having a really solid diet. And similarly, really to Julie, I walked into my naturopath's office and she was looking at me and she literally said, "You look ill. Like, you look really ill. Like, are you eating? Like, what are you doing?" Because the rings underneath my eyes were black. And so that was really sort of a turnaround moment for me, where I started to see that, I couldn't continue to push and strive. I couldn't continue to do, because this burnout, the situation I was in, it was literally from the inside out eating me up. And I knew I would lose everything if I wouldn't actually start to make a change. And that was huge for me. And, accepting help, accepting the fact that I wasn't, undefeatable. I want to say that I wasn't being superwoman, right? That was a big pill to swallow. And so I got myself ultimately into a health coaching certification to learn about how to bounce back from burnout for myself. I wasn't actually intending to go into coaching, but as life goes, here I am and here we are. So I've experienced it firsthand, and Julie and I've had so many amazing chats about this. So I'm so excited for us to team up and really share some incredible tools with you. Now, I really want you to take a moment and just tune in a little bit about what would open up for you if you finally had time again to spend with friends and family. Or how, if you had successful habits that recharged you, that could actually change the experience you're having every day. And what if you could have the energy to consistently take empowered action towards your goals? And maybe even have the confidence to lead yourself and others just with a little bit more ease and actually make more impact. How powerful would that be? So I'm excited to dive into this first step with you as I let you contemplate a little bit more on those questions. And as I sort of shared in my story, one thing that was really big for me was all the things I was telling myself that I had to do on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things that I realized over years of studying this is that we often aren't quite understanding what's causing our burnout, and that we're actually unknowingly contributing to the state of exhaustion. And the first step really, when you are burnt out, if you're feeling exhausted and sapped, or even if you're busy and stressed all the time, is starting to really pay attention to your thoughts and to the words that you say, probably without even noticing. And that might sound something like this. Someone asking you how you are. "Oh, I'm really tired today. I feel exhausted. I'm so busy. I'm stressed. I've got so much on my plate. I can never get ahead." Right? And I'm busy. That was a big one for me. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I would have probably said that I'm busy and tired, I don't know, 100 times a day, maybe more. And just think about that for a moment, right? Like, how often do you say, "I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm exhausted," right? And the reason why I'm sharing this is because the way our brain is wired is that when you think it, "I'm exhausted," and then you say it, "I'm exhausted," or you think, "I'm busy," and you say that you're busy, our brain is wired in a way that you have decided that that is your identity. You're exhausted, you're tired, you're busy, you're stressed, whatever that is. And what ends up happening is you will take actions and find proof around you that that is in fact true. So how this can show up is that ultimately, if you're busy all the time, someone will ask you if you could take on another task or show up for this other event, and you naturally will say yes, even if you want to say no. Or perhaps you're feeling really, really tired and you've been telling yourself that you should really stay home, but there's this event and you're like, I really need to go to this event. I need to go to this event. And boom, here you are at the event, right? And not having a good time, but you're like, you know what, mask on, makeup, lipstick, another coffee, here I go, right? I'm showing up. And you really want to dig here a little bit so that you start to understand what are some of the things you say to yourself on a regular basis in your mind or out loud to other people that are all contributing to you feeling tired, feeling exhausted, feeling stressed. And I know Julie's going to talk about stress a little bit later on as well. But that's something that we really need to start to pay attention to, because if you don't know where you're really talking yourself into it, it's really hard to actually create steps forward. And so one thing that you can do is sort of keep like a bit of a note journal. And this is sort of a hack I did for a while. And just like, I made like a checklist of every time I said that I was exhausted and tired, or thought I'm exhausted and tired. And it was quite shocking, actually. So be ready for it. But I also then started to ask myself, well, what's behind that, right? Like, if I say I'm exhausted and I know I want to rest, why do I say yes to some of these things? And so that's really the first step. It's about creating this deep awareness, and it's about tuning in. And Julie is controlling my slides here, so let's move on. So once you've created awareness around what is happening for you, the things you're telling yourself, I call these your stories, and I wrote about them in my book, Achieve with Grace, as well. Some of you may have read it. And really, once you understand the story and you really dig a little bit deeper there, you're able to bring choice back and then take action with intention. And so this step is really about, looking at where you are, deciding where you want to be instead. So, in your case, you're probably here because you're feeling tired, you're feeling zapped, you are stressed. And so when you start to pay attention to, I say I'm busy all the time, I'm exhausted all the time, and then I say yes to things, now you can start to be like, okay, well, how would I like to feel instead? And Julie, if you click that for me, those points will come up as well. So really, what I want you to do is focus on the feeling that you're after. And the reason why that is a good way of bringing intention back and bringing choice back is because it'll give you a little bit of a guideline, or like a little like nudge, I guess I would say, in the right direction. So let's give you a little scenario. So if you are someone who is always feeling tired, you're always exhausted, you're always busy, you're always on the go, and you're starting to realize that that is not just what you think, how you feel, but the message you share, and you constantly say yes, like you don't really have great boundaries, that's a great awareness, right? So now we want to choose what to do with that awareness. Okay, so maybe you decide that instead of, feeling busy and stressed and always saying yes, you want to actually feel more, empowered. You feel like you want to have choice, and you want to feel more energized as one. And then really dig a little bit deeper here and think, okay, if I would have that, how would that make me feel? And maybe it's happier, maybe it's calm, maybe it's relaxed, maybe it's more nourished, right? Like there will be a word and a feeling that when you sort of feel like, okay, if I would say no to this, how would that make me feel? Right? Like ask yourself a couple of times and then connect with that, right? So for example, if it's like something, for me, satisfaction was a big thing. Like I wanted to feel satisfied by my choices. And so once I knew, okay, I want to feel satisfied, you want to do one thing a day that makes you feel that right now. So back then for me, that was actually, it was like, think small, okay? Like I was working like 80 hours a week. I was like, what would make me feel more satisfied in my day? And I was like, actually sitting down and taking a 30-minute lunch break away from my desk. Like, you know, now you might be like, what? Like 30 minutes away, like there wasn't anything bigger. It wasn't. Like, I was so burnt out. Like, that for me was like a quantum leap. But I was like, oh my God, like if I could sit down and just switch off for 30 minutes, maybe connect with some colleagues, like, or go for a walk in summer and winter or fall. It's not always that nice to go outside. That would actually make me feel more satisfied. And so I started doing that. And then you can add a layer to that, right? Every time you get to a place, like for example, I would get to the end of my day and it would be like, you know, 5 or 6 o'clock. And I usually start around like 7:38. So I was already like nearing a pretty long day at that point. And it would come to this point where I was like, am I going to keep answering these emails? Right? Because there was always emails. Like I used to get so many emails. It was just ridiculous. And they would never be like my email inbox. Like I always would be fighting for it to be empty. I'm like OCD like and so it was like, am I going to stay and answer these emails or am I going to go home? And so I started asking myself, which choice would make me feel more satisfied? Like what would feel satisfying to me? Staying or leaving? Right? And you can break it down. And that's really how you start to take an awareness and turn it into an intentional action rather than just mindlessly saying, oh, no, I'm going to stay. I have to do these emails. And so I'd be like, okay, great. It's going to make me feel more satisfied. I'm going to feel much better if I leave. And so I would start to leave. And that's how I started to shift really to these actions and being like, oh my God, it changes. That's okay. You can go ahead. So let's move to step 3. And I'm moving through these fairly quickly. And I know we're going to share a little bit more later how you can join, our mastermind. And in those, I will go way in depth because I'm covering a lot in like a snapshot. But these are really key items. And with these 3 steps, I promise you, you can make a major like change already. And so the third one is really focusing on generating energy. Why am I talking about energy? The big thing here is that obviously we're talking about exhaustion and burnout and feeling tired, right? And energy is such an important thing. And I always talk about, these networking events, and I know we miss them a little bit at least. But, if you've ever been to this event where someone walks into the room and they have this beautiful aura about them and you're just drawn to that person, right? Like you just want to go talk to them. You want to find out. They have a really good energy about them. Right. And I think that is the thing. Some people call it charisma as well, right? Like, or influence, like whatever you want to call it. But energy is such a big piece. And when we are understanding that our ability to be impactful as women, as leaders, as, as wives, as sisters, as moms, like whatever that is for you, is more connected to your ability to generate energy than generate anything else, it's like this big switch. And it was this major needle mover for me that I started to realize that the more energy I have, the more impact I have, the more influence I have, the more I can do, the more I can show up for. Like there is more. But I don't feel like I'm depleted. I don't feel like I have less energy because everything I do is literally cycling around generating energy. And so a great way here again to dig in and start to take action for yourself is to really ask yourself, right? What gives you energy and what takes it away? And a little tip here again is, I love my on-the-go notepads, and like I had like, it was like a little notepad, probably the size. And I love Post-it notes. So usually I have Post-it notes everywhere. Is to just keep it in your pocket. And you can of course use your phone if you're better than me. Back then I used a notepad, but you can use your phone, and you really want to just track everything, right? Like whether it comes to, is it how you handle yourself in relationships, food, when you work out, what you eat, what you do at work, right? Like start to really track an inventory of what are the things when you do them, you're like, that was awesome. I feel great and I feel energized. And what are the things that literally you do and you're like, oh my God, like that literally was the most like boring thing for me, or that was the most, agonizing conversation I just had, right? And I feel zapped. I'm grabbing for sugar, I'm grabbing for coffee, I'm grabbing for cake. Like I left my 2 o'clock cake, right? So that was a great indication that I had just done something that really was not energizing me. And when you start to have this inventory, again, you bring back that action and you bring back the choice, and you can be like, great, now I get to focus on doing more of the things that give me energy. So just add more of the stuff that gives you energy and try and do less of the stuff that takes it away. And for me, that included things like going for a 10K run on a Friday when I was feeling tired. Really didn't make me feel great, right? Even though logically it seems like the right thing to do, but with burnout, with adrenal fatigue, that is not the right thing. So instead I would do a yin class, or I would just go home and do nothing, you guys, nothing, right? So it's little stuff sometimes, and it doesn't always have to be, something big. I think we get really lost in that. So think small and simple and do those things first and keep inventory. And if you do those 3 things, like you're going to start to see a shift relatively quickly. And that is a really, really, powerful tool that I've been using. And these steps, I've used them myself. I've used them with my clients. Julie and I've been jamming about them quite a bit. And they're really, really powerful. So awareness, intention, and then really the energy piece. And now I'm going to hand it over to Julie.
I was going to say about this focusing on energy side. When I was recovering from burnout too as well, I don't know where I thought this up, but apparently I didn't, because you were doing the same thing, is I literally took a piece of paper and cut it in the middle. And I wrote down what brought me energy, what did I thrive doing. And I'd love, ladies, if you have, if you're in front of a computer, I'd love for you to type in what energizes you in particular, if you have that sort of self-awareness already. And then obviously the things that did not, generate energy for myself. So you mentioned networking. Networking does not energize me whatsoever. Doing things like this does. That's very, very different for me. But I certainly did not like networking, and that actually was on my no list. Obviously, depending on what your career was and where you needed to be, you couldn't really avoid it. But I think it is something that you could create and generate some awareness around. So you're really understanding what, drives your energy and what taps out your energy. So then you can sort of bring back control as well. So definitely pop those in for us so we can sort of get an idea as to what you all enjoy and what maybe doesn't make you thrive. But I'd love to know, especially you extroverts, I know you love networking. So I'd love to hear about that.
Or maybe it's wine with a friend.
And maybe that's what it is too as well. I see a few comments in there. I don't know if we got some. Wait, Theresa, time with my team is Deb. Theresa says it's quality times with friends, attending the class, which is an exercise class that you've been doing, literally the class, journaling, having baths. And for myself, I would say yoga is a big one for me. Being out in nature is really important. It shocks people to know that I'm an introvert, but I actually thrive with some alone time. I love being creative. So I love working with women and helping them feel better, feel stronger. Volunteering, Rosie, I love that. That is so great. And Deb loves working out as well. And I love that you love moving. Alexis loves walks by myself, exercising, eating a great meal I made, or her very, very talented husband. She's lucky. And swimming, I see B done. I'm sorry, I don't got your first name there, but swimming, once I do it, makes me feel great. Yes, I agree. Movement's so important.
Yeah. I love that too, and I want to just it's Brit.
Oh, Brit. Oh, awesome. Breed.
Okay, that's cool awesome. Name. That's great. I wanted to say too, how just notice that these things are accessible to you. Most of the things everyone's just shared, they're literally accessible.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that, right?
Exactly. So now we're going to move on to the nutritional side. And actually, I think I have 3 points. We said this was 5 steps, but we actually have a bonus step in there. I always work well with numbers. So, but obviously wasn't counting right in this scenario, but we threw in a bonus. And, you know, here's the thing. I always work with the mindset, even though I specialize in weight loss and energy, it is my thing. There is a mindset component to everything. And I've had women that have done all the things when it comes to exercising and eating right, but they just can't seem to release that weight, especially that midsection weight that we all as women hate, but it hangs there. And, you know, they do all the right things, but it's oftentimes, you know, the mindset that holds them back. And that self-awareness piece is really important. I think as women, oftentimes, especially when we're leading groups of people, we're high drive on the masculine side when we forget the feminine side is just as powerful. And this is where the hormones comes in that men don't have, that we do, and honestly is one of our biggest superpowers. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit on how we can really optimize that. So hormones, we know what they are. And I think, you know, we can probably come across like 5, 6, 7 hormones off the top of our head, right? They're messengers that control and communicate with everything in our body. There's hormones called cortisol, our stress hormone, but then we have progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. Those are sex hormones too as well. All of these hormones, and there's more, really talk to our body, and they dictate so much of what's going on in our body when it comes to energy and cravings and weight and sleep and all of those things. And I did want to highlight, I know Theresa sort of mentioned, and I might ask you ladies another question. When it comes to burnout, or just not feeling yourself, what are some of the symptoms that come up for you? And Theresa sort of brought it up. And if you've been following us on social media, we've been talking a little bit about it. And I'm hoping that obviously some of those posts or those videos that we've done had connected to you. But what was it specifically that brought you here in the first place, whether it was mentally or physically, that you were dealing with? I'd love to hear what that was or has been for you currently or in the past. So I'll just explain for myself. Fatigue was a big thing, and brain fog. So, you know, forgetting things, having a really hard time, you know, what I did 5 minutes ago, or somebody asked me a question about something and trying to remember a name for somebody. I was dizzy. If you ever found yourself in a workout and you felt dizzy working out, that's definitely a big sign of burnout. Cravings for sugar. Give me a heck yes, or tell me if you've had cravings of sugar. And salt. You can actually have big salty cravings too as well. Midsection weight gain is a big one. And thank you everybody for all of your comments on all the things that bring you joy. We missed a few, and there's some good ones. So, you know, if any of those resonate, obviously fatigue. If you are somebody that, you know, it's 10:30 at night and you know you got to go to bed, but your brain is just going 100 miles a minute. That's what I would describe as tired but wired. So I hear brain fog right now and fatigue. In the past, physical pain and resentment. I agree with that. That resentment's a big one. It's like the me against the world, or the world against me sort of feeling, right? And so I definitely resonate with that. Sugar cravings is a big one. Bad habits, because I deserve it. Yeah, because it's a stressful time in work, eating all the wrong things. Oh, awesome, you've lost 5 pounds and felt amazing, and now you've put it all back on. But there's always an upwards, that's for sure. So that sounds like, to me, you knew something was working. And so I think, you know, you can definitely get back on track. So simply can't get past the 10 last 10 pounds off. Super frustrating as you're eating clean and working out. So going to talk about that eating clean and working out very shortly here in a minute. Feeling dizzy, insomnia, inability to relax, wired but wasted feeling. Ooh, those are so key. And I'm sorry that you feel that way. I know what that feels like 100% because I probably felt all of those. So I understand 100%. So back to those hormones that we were talking about. Sorry, I meant to mention that in the beginning. So there are messengers, and they control and communicate everything in our body. And they will constantly fluctuate our hormones from week to week, just because as women, we're cyclical. But they will do even more imbalancing if we are constantly in a state of stress. Imbalances, we've already talked about a few: weight gain, poor energy, brain fog, moodiness, irritability, cycle dysregulation, that was me, and uncontrollable cravings. And you know, your cycle is a window into your health. So it's really important, you know, if you're, you know, if you have PMS, and any imbalances with that, that's what happened to me. It was an indicator of something that was happening inside my body. So I'm going to tell you how we can optimize hormones. And again, you know, keeping in mind that every woman is unique, but these are the top ones that most women I deal with. So if we're going to optimize these hormones that are communicators and that dictate so much in our body, these are just 5 things that I look at. The first one is to ditch Google. So I don't know who has gone on Google to say, how do I lose those last 10 pounds? Or how do I, feel better? The reality is that Google's not going to give you the answer, because you are you're just bio unique, right? Every woman, Theresa and I are going to be very different, but we're very similar because we have this 28-day cycle. And whether you're menstruating or not, you still have an ebb and flow of hormones that happen in your body. However, most of us go online and say, how do I lose weight? And right now, you're probably going to hear something about keto diets or low carb diets, maybe Atkins diets, any of those things. And, it's so funny. I was preparing for this today and I came across this article. It knew I wanted to hear and be reminded of this. But most diets, when they research and obviously want to have some stats around it, most people, doctors that are going to collect those stats, are always going to look at men. So your ketogenic diet is going to probably test on men, and men are going to have amazing results because they can shed weight quick and fast just by simply changing a little bit of their diet and working out. That's it. Like, my husband can eat anything and nothing affects them. And the reason why doctors didn't pick women is because doctors know that a woman's metabolism changes constantly. So it's funny, you can go on a diet, you might lose 5 pounds, you feel great, and then you just go out with the girls for one night and you lost, the 5 pounds are back on the scale. I'm sure many of you have done that. I have some clients on this call too as well, past and current clients, and they'll be on they'll check their weight one day and it's amazing, and then the next day it's like down the gutter. And how does that make you feel? It doesn't make you feel all that great, because you put in all that effort. Like Theresa said, I worked out consistently, and one of the women on the call was like, I ate clean, and what gives? It's because our hormones are dictating exactly. And then if you pile that on with stress, it makes it very, very, a little bit more difficult for sure. The other thing is restrictive eating. So I know one of the ladies mentioned eating clean. To me, most women that I deal with, especially when they're starting a program with me, automatically go to I always say this, a salad with chicken. And eating clean to me was a salad with chicken. I'm going to eat all the vegetables and I'm going to put a boring piece of chicken breast on my salad, and that's going to help me feel better. But restrictive eating, which means decreasing your calorie intake, or, skipping meals are going to be a disaster for a woman who is got, chronic stress and maybe imbalanced, and more than likely imbalanced hormones too as well. So in fact, most clients that I deal with have to increase the caloric intake more than anything, which kind of shocks them, but it works. So it's really just trying to, give the body what it needs, especially when you're in a state of stress and you add more stress on, it's not going to help the situation. So then we want to talk about rethinking exercise, depending on what kind of exercises you're doing. For women, Theresa mentioned used to go out for a 10K, but she was exhausted, but she did it anyways because we're told we need to work out and burn calories, and that's the only way you should do it. But when your body is already tapped out with our stress hormone cortisol, and you go on a 10K run when there's no reserves left in your body, you are not going to feel good. You're not going to feel good while you're doing it, and you're probably not going to feel good afterwards, and you actually may not feel good the days leading after that. So I like to rethink exercising. If you are dealing with a lot of stress, mentally, physically, whatever that may be for you, oftentimes a 40-minute walk is the best thing you can do for your body. And depending on who, the clients that I'm dealing with, if I know that their stress levels are high, that's what I prescribe them. Just do a walk out in nature, because nature has been proven to lower or balance cortisol levels, and it's going to be key. I've had a client who lost 25 pounds just by walking. Obviously her diet changed. She did a lot of mindset work, but was doing all the things, and she couldn't get the secret, the secret message. She probably went on Google maybe, and tried to do all the things, but with a little recalibration, and I think, some support, obviously she got there. The fourth one is to learn about your body's natural rhythm. So women have a 28-day cycle. It ranges on average 22 to 28 days, depends where you're at. And even if you don't have a cycle, you still are having hormones. But let's say from the beginning of your menstrual cycle, your first couple days, maybe not so, but the first day of your menstrual cycle till about your ovulation, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to have when your cycle's done, you're just like, you could run a marathon. That's because your hormones are at its best. It's feeling very energetic, especially when you get to almost to the ovulation part. You're feeling like you want to socialize, you want to do things with your girlfriends, you want to be with your spouse, you want to run, you want to walk, you want to do a HIIT workout. But then you hit ovulation towards the end. And obviously, as you hit your menstrual cycle, you all know your energy takes a deep dive. And that is your body, in a lot of ways, preparing for our cycle. And it will tell us it's time to slow down. But I know for myself specifically, it didn't matter what day of the month it was. I was going on the runs and doing the hot yoga, doing the HIIT workouts, whatever it may be. But if we actually work with our cycle's rhythm and understand ourselves and our bodies a lot better, we're going to feel less guilty, and we're going to utilize it to our advantage. The other thing, obviously, with our cycle too as well, our focus changes, our energy changes, our sleep changes. When you understand that, you can use it really as your superpower. When you're ovulating, it's the best time to be creative. When you're menstruating, it's the best time to really sit back and reflect, maybe do some planning, that sort of thing. Now, we can't always do that depending on our jobs, but it is really key to be very well aware of how that would work. And then the last one is restore. It's a restorative plan. Every single night, 8 p.m. for me is a shutdown. I do a 2-hour shutdown mode. And so that might be, cleaning up my kitchen for sure, and setting up my supplements and that sort of thing. But it's also taking a bath and making sure I'm going to bed on time, that sort of thing. So it's really key for you to have, if you're dealing with a lot of stress, to have a restorative plan every single night, so that you're allowing your body to get ready for bed and so that you can recharge adequately. We're going to go on to the next point. So basically, hormonal imbalance is the number one reason you'll struggle with energy and weight loss. So stress is the main cause. And as an ambitious woman with goals and expectations, it's not going to go away. But certainly by eating less calories and doing the wrong types of exercise actually adds stress and creates further hormonal imbalances. So let's talk about metabolism. So metabolic function is how well our body converts what we eat, what we're consuming, into energy. So well-functioning metabolism, obviously we're burning calories efficiently, pretty straightforward. But if it's poor functioning, you actually start storing calories as fat instead of using them for energy. So you may have heard this thing, you know, if I even look at a sandwich, I'll gain 10 pounds. Well, that's actually the reality, right? Because your body's just not burning it off efficiently too as well. So here are some ways that you can start to restore metabolism. So we want to go back again, you're going to see a theme: stop restrictive eating. And the way that I have a bit of a methodology in terms of what the best way and the best ratios to eat. I don't count calories, but I give women a bit of a guidepost or guide map to work with. But one of the key things is amping up your healthy fats and your quality proteins. And if you need some examples of what those healthy fats and proteins would be like, let me know, and I can certainly share that at the end too as well. But really important from a calorie standpoint, especially if we're dealing with stress, we want to make sure that it's not feast or famine. We basically want to make sure that we are energizing our body adequately with the right types of foods that make us feel satiated, so that we're not craving all the things. So all of you women with your sugar cravings, definitely look at really good protein sources and healthy fats, an abundance of vegetables for sure. But definitely put those in as key, because that's the missing link. If you've done a low fat diet, which I used to do, that's really going to be a disaster, because as women, we need those fats to help, with the healthy cholesterol, which then helps to build our hormones too as well. And then I mentioned move smart. Key thing here, you don't need an hour workout. A 40-minute workout is a great start. If your body feels like you can do more, add more on. But you don't need to be there for an hour in the gym running or doing a 10K. It's thinking about a little bit being a bit more smarter. So if you're feeling fatigued, then go for a walk. If you're, at that point in your cycle where you're feeling really good and energetic, take advantage of it and do it. And your body is going to reciprocate because of it. So this is my bonus step, which is inflammation. And ladies, if you are dealing with lots of stress, if you're eating a diet that's high in processed food, if if you're using a lot of products that have perfumes and things like that, like environmental stress, that boosts the stress inflammation in our body. So some of the chronic inflammation basically tells the body that it's not safe. So when we have a lot of inflammation in our body does what it's meant to do, which is to protect us. So if we are in that high drive mode, if we're restrictive eating, and if we're working out harder than what we should be doing, our body's going to hold on to things. And that's why oftentimes you see women like myself, my issue is always in the gut. And really it's because my body, if I'm dealing with a lot of stress and inflammation, dietary and stress related, my body's doing what it's doing by protecting me and holding on to that fat, because it doesn't know the difference between feast or famine. Like, it doesn't know if this is a short-term boost of stress or if this is a long-term, stress period. So the body's quite smart in a lot of ways. Your immune system is basically in overdrive, going into full-blown protection mode, like I said, and then your body starts to hold on to fat. So you might be feeling puffy, swollen, and as some people say, fat and flabby. Not the best words to use, but I know in your mind that's what you say to yourself, right? I know I have too as well. If you've had a really long day, very, very stressful day, and you notice when you get home, you get bloated, That's usually a sign that you push yourself too much. And so a lot of deep breathing is really, really key to calm your nervous system, especially when you're trying to get ready to eat your meals. It's really important to eat in a very calm environment. And so you feel exhausted, joints and bones hurt. You could have skin conditions because of inflammation, like acne and eczema. I know I used to get eczema here, and I haven't in years, just because I know that was my body's stress response. Digestive issues too as well. So if you have any bloating, IBS, headaches, and things like that, that's a sign too as well. So how to reduce inflammation? So this is the killer: gluten, grains, and dairy accelerate inflammation. So I know some people on this call that I've worked with know that they've really benefited from reducing. You don't have to remove it completely, but you need to get rid of the inflammation and build your body back up again, and then you might be able to incorporate a few of those things. So I eat some of these things very moderately, just because of that myself. So it's not to say you don't have to do it forever, but definitely something I recommend that you do at least for a few weeks if possible. Reducing cortisol: get into nature, get outdoors, take a nice long bath if you can, 20-30 minute bath. I try supplementing with magnesium. Magnesium is like a mineral with like 600 different processes that it can do in the body. So if you're not taking magnesium as a woman, this might change your life. And so very inexpensive supplement to take. Magnesium glycinate is what I would recommend. Assuming you're not on any medications and things like that, I would just check with your doctor. But it's a pretty standard supplement. Ashwagandha is a nice calming supplement. You can also get it in a pill, but I like it in a tincture, which is just a liquid. This would be something that I would take maybe before bed, or if you're in a stressful sort of situation, it can also help with that. My favorite one is you have to become a sleep ninja. If you're not sleeping, how is your body restoring itself? Our sleep period is so critical for us in order for us to rejuvenate our bodies and to really be our best selves. It also will help our hormones. Lack of sleep is one of the leading causes of weight gain, and certainly diabetes along the way too as well. So we can't overlook sleep. And so I can help you certainly with that in terms of developing a sleep routine. You need to create your Zen toolbox. What's going to create calm in your body. And then going back to step one is you actually have to understand where your stress is rooted. My stress, I'm a perfectionist. It gets me every time. Although I like to say I have the best work ethic ever, it's also it dooms me too as well. I'll be like the first one in, last one out type person. Working from home, on my phone, in front of, in the bedroom, not a good thing. So definitely understand where your stress is coming from. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, Julie. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can see Robin said, me too, trying to recover. Yes, me too. I'm also a recovering perfectionist. I think so many of us are, if you're an ambitious woman and you care about your career and it's important to you to be successful, it can be really easy to push yourself last or off your priority list altogether. And so loved all those steps and tools you shared, Julie. Every time you share, I learn something new, and what sort of clicked include in for me too is that so many of the things that you shared we should keep in mind and do always. And I know it's the same with what I talk about. It's not just when you burned out, it's not just when you feel down and not yourself. It's really about a lifestyle, and it can be a lifestyle, and by not restricting it, all these steps, really, they're fairly simple. And so we have a question for all of you, sort of hearing these 6 steps. And of course, there was a lot of information that we covered, but does it sound empowering? And most of all, does it sound like something you could do? Like, do you feel like that's something that you could manage? And so let us know in the comment. Yes. We've got a yes there. Awesome. Yeah. So key. Now, we would love to invite you, and there's another, yes, definitely, love to sleep ninja. That is Julie's special trick, isn't it? Your superpower, go to sleep. I love it. It's something like that. We would love to extend an invite to you to join us in our Exhausted to Thriving Mastermind, which is really 6 weeks with Julie and I to really help you, master all those steps that we went through, which, there's quite a lot. And we start on October 24th, and I'm so excited. And Julie, maybe you can cover a little bit of that as well, of what we're going to cover in those 6 weeks.
Yes, definitely. So I'm just checking the comments. Thank you. So this is a 6-week course. I say course, it's a mastermind. So we're going to help you, take this learning even deeper. And obviously this is, a 2-for-1er, because you get myself and Theresa too as well. And with, Theresa's coaching from a health and just lifestyle and mindset coaching, it's a double whammy. So we're going to uncover and understand what led you to exhaustion. And you might have already started to curate that in your mind already. So I hope that you've had a few ahas. Learn the tools to prioritize yourself without feeling guilty or insecure about the impact on your career, which is so big, because I think a lot of women just think that if they take the reins off, or their hands off the reins, they're going to miss out, or they're not going to be as productive, or they're not going to be as successful. But like I said, you've got a lot of superpowers within you that you can utilize to your advantage that are thankfully our male counterparts do not have. So you get to finally ditch those endless sugar cravings and learn to fuel your body for energy. And, we see improved sleep because of this. If weight is something that you're struggling with, there definitely can be an impact on that. Boost your metabolism so that you feel more confident, have boundless energy, and create massive impact in all aspects of your life. We focus on women, who are leading, right? Leaders or managing, or you have a team. You could be at home. It doesn't matter. It's how you show up to your day and what brings meaning in your life. And we're here to support you on that.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. We start on October 24th, as I mentioned, and we're going to jump on literally like every week. And you're going to tune into, a lesson with Julie and I, but also there's always going to be a Q&A at the end of each lesson as well. You'll be on camera like us, and we can really have a chat and sort of work together, because one of the things that's really important too is that we learn from each other and we learn from our stories. And, like Julie and I shared that we have a lot of conversations, and we could spend hours talking about what we went through and what we're doing now, and sharing tools. And that's so important. But we're going to cover like everything from the awareness to building healthy habits to living intentionally. Julie's going to cover all the nutrition stuff, how we can get out of our head and into our body and start to really nourish us the way we should. And really, understand also this natural rhythm. That was a huge thing for me, the cyclical living, and bringing that into my day. And I shared in the comments, I block a whole week out, and that blew my mind away when I started to realize what a difference that made. So we literally going to take a deep dive with you every single week and cover all of that, so that you're not crazy scribbling notes. You'll be like, boom, I now know what to do. And, Julie, we spoke about this, but I would have wished there would have been something like this, because it was really hard to recover from burnout. For me, it was about, 3-4 years ago, and it went on and on. I burned out more than once, over and over again, full disclosure, but it was really difficult because Google didn't have the answer. So I love that you had put that up, because I was like, oh my God, I wasted hours and hours Googling, how to feel better, how to feel less exhausted, how to lose those bloody, 10, 20. And for me, it was 20 pounds. Like, actually my pants ripped at work. That's a funny story. So maybe I'll share that in that mastermind as well.
Yeah. And I think it's also my thing too, as well as living with balance too as well. So, you still need to reward yourself. And if you want that glass of wine or the cheese and wine with the girlfriends, like I just never understood that mentality. But when you go on a lot of plans, it's like, well, you have to get rid of everything, but that's not sustainable, because we're only human. And, you know, one day, you know, you want to be able to enjoy your time with your friends, your family, and those special celebrations. We certainly want to be responsible, and maybe set realistic expectations, but, you know, it's definitely a non-restrictive approach to as well. So we got 6 weeks of personalized coaching from Theresa, who's a mastery certified transformational coach, and myself as the holistic nutritionist and energy coach. So we're doing 6 1-hour they're live and recorded, of course. So if you can't make it, obviously best to be there live, but we'll uncover self-management, mastery, nutrition, and lifestyle support. You're going to get a recipe guide and nutritional protocol that is designed to boost metabolic balance, specifically for a woman in mind. So, and then we are throwing in some bonuses, and it's actually really only for this group and obviously our communities, but Theresa is going to actually be graciously throwing in a 45-minute refocus for success coaching session, where she will take a deep dive into your unique situation. So given where you're at in your life, in your career, you know, just your personal life in general, and create a personalized roadmap to succeed with elegance and less struggle, and really ultimately have a little bit more control in your life.
Absolutely. And there's totally more. And I love that you are going to get a supplement guide from Julie, which is amazing. And I can't wait to see what she comes up with. But I'm also throwing in a copy of my best-selling book, Achieve with Grace. And I go through actually all those 3 steps that I shared today as well in depth. And I know a lot of my hospitality ladies are really relating to the stories I share in that. And also, of course, there's a community group. And just so, you know, as Julie and I were talking earlier, I think, you know, the restricting and taking everything away with dieting, it doesn't work. And what I found when I was burned out was the community, the connection, and finding more moments of joy and gratitude, and really having a support system were for me really vital, because the mental, like the emotional symptoms for me around my burnout were pretty significant. And then Julie is also going to throw in a 45-minute one-on-one consult, which is incredible. So she's going to really, you know, take a deep dive with you personally as well, and figure out, you know, what are your imbalances in your body? Because again, as Julie mentioned, you know, we share stories, we share experiences, but ultimately we're all a little bit different. So with those 2 bonuses, we're really going to focus in on you one-on-one and cover that as well.
Awesome. So I'm just going through, sorry, my slides are locked here, but so part of the problem, of course, is our program is to get a complete training program. So it's actually valued at over $3,000. And so your bonus 1 is your one-to-one refocus for session with Theresa. You can see the value of that. And mine equally is a one-to-one nutritional consultation. So that will be based on where your unique situation as well. So, and it will be specifically curated for you. So the supplementing might be adjusted depending on where you are in your health and perhaps where your goals are. And I didn't really, we didn't go too deep in terms of the nutritional support, but you will have Theresa and I accessible over the duration of those 6 weeks. So you don't just get that one phone call, you will get us within a community of women, but certainly from a one-on-one perspective too as well. And it is going to be a small group that we are taking, because this is sort of a launch of a program. So we're taking a smaller group because we really want to create that sense of community, but that personalization too as well. And then we have a special bonus for attending today's masterclass, which is actually, we're offering 111, which is a very auspicious number, 111, my favorite, or 1111, but in this case, 111 off the price of the program too as well. So your total value is $3,000, but you, for being our friends on this call, is 777, another auspicious number. And so that is what we'd like to offer any of you that, of course, are interested in joining us for our mastermind.
And we're so excited. And literally, like, Julie and I met actually in March at the last in-person event I was at. and we started to chat, and we've been chatting since, and we've done all sorts of trainings. And so I am so beyond excited that we're doing this and bringing this. And I really hope that a lot of you will choose to join us, and that you're really going to, find your thriving, find your groove, find your confidence, lose those 10 pounds, really feel like yourself again. And that would be the best thing for us. So I'm super excited. And the promo code is here, which is called Fall Into Energy. But I've also just posted the link to sign up in the comments as well, so you can check it out. And Julie's also going to send you, you're also going to get a link sent to you as well. So now we've got some more time. We went a little bit over, but we want to make sure you can ask questions if you have any, and we appreciate you being here. So
any questions nutritionally too as well, because I know we went through quite a lot. Obviously, if you have questions about the program, you can add those in. But if there was anything that was sort of aha that we were talking about that you maybe wanted a little bit more clarity in, or you can just come on live and ask the question. I'm happy if that's easier for you too as well. Definitely ask while you have us. Oh, here we go.
Okay. Any supplements you love for energy recovery?
Yes. Well, depends again. I think where you're at. If it's a burnout situation, you're low on energy, you kind of need therapeutic. So there is adrenal supplementation that would be very beneficial. And so something that could have ashwagandha too as well, but you kind of need your B vitamins to help sort of support your body and get your energy back up. So if you research adrenal, ADRENAL, there are some supplements that will help support that too as well. So that's a great question. And then intermittent fasting, yay or nay? So yes, I'm a yay for fasting. However, I wouldn't do it unsupervised exactly. Like I would say start slow. And so generally speaking, I recommend just taking a break from eating right away when you first wake up in the morning, because you're automatically, anytime we're eating, we're raising blood sugar. So it really just depends on what you are consuming. So let's just say, for example, a fruit smoothie, with fruit yogurt and banana and blueberries and maybe some milk or orange juice, versus 2 poached eggs or 2 fried eggs with a side of avocado. 2 very different impacts on our blood sugar. But from an intermittent fasting standpoint, I'm a big proponent to it. But again, depends where your health is. You have thyroid issues that you wouldn't know. Like I've gained weight by fasting. So not always ideal for every woman. Sometimes you have to get your body back in balance first before you would, because ultimately fasting is a stressor. They call it a hormetic stressor. So it's not like, the worst thing in the body, to happen in the body. But if you've already got a lot of stress, sometimes, it can imbalance things too as well. Those are 2 great questions, by the way.
Yeah, I would add to that too with the intermittent fasting. I was trying to do intermittent fasting while I was really burnt out. Surprise, surprise, right? I was like, let's get fit and do this, right? Like, yes. I'm going to try everything. And it really didn't work for me. So back then when I was working, and like you said, Julie, I was working with a naturopath at the time. And so I got myself some help and guidance and realized that I really, throughout that time and recreating balance in my body, for me personally, I needed to eat something in the morning, and I actually needed to eat something solid in the morning. So for a while I was actually sitting down and really thinking about, okay, what could I eat in the morning?
Right.
That would make me feel good. And so, yeah, it's an interesting, question. So it always comes back to, doesn't it, to who we are unique as a human being.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And I think, I think the thing, if it's a weight loss perspective, weight loss does take time. I'd rather see something slow and gradual versus fast and quick, because if it comes fast and quick off, it will come fast and quick back on. right? Because we typically look for that really fast fix. And it's interesting because I used to do like 21-day programs, even myself nutritionally, like for clients. And I was like, this just doesn't seem like the best approach, because, you know, for me, it's all about longevity and what's going to make you feel good and energetic and, you know, sustain you long term, right? Where you can go on vacation and not blow your goals, or eat at the Christmas table and, you know, not not feel guilty about it too as well. So it's a gradual thing is always a good thing.
And a lifestyle thing, right? Like you just said, that it's about the long term, right? So one of the things I realized when it came to burnout, and you know, even now, right? Like my autopilot is doing go, 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 go. And I have a lot of energy, but I can tell you that even right now, where I have more control over my time because I'm now fully self-employed in my business, still I could push myself to max easily. So It's really about long-term and a lifestyle that you want to create for yourself, whether it comes to eating or how you approach your career and how you show up. And if you're prone to burnout, if you've been burned out, if you have a high stress job, then that's really, I feel like, something to keep in mind, that you know, it's not a quick fix, as much as I wanted it to be like you know, just give me a pill and tell me what to eat and I'll do it and I'll be fine. But didn't quite work that way.